So, and then infrastructure for ITC, for example, information technology, this is fiber optic, and I think that is also with private sector. Development of stadium and many of this infrastructure that is also private.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I couldn't see the figures before.
Sure.
And I think here we see also part of the idea of encouraging private investments by bringing the citizens, showing them the value. In Pemprov we have a situation which is a very small city, but there was encouraged private investment for repairing houses or investing in houses, trying to not to lose energy, to have the cooling or the heating of the city, of the rooms better. And it is in principle, the city has provided a lot of, how to say, consulting to the citizens, so they do the right investment. Which investment, which funding, which is most efficient investment. I think here you are right. On the private sector, we have a lot of resources, and we can direct them into the right direction. So that's very interesting. How you manage this here, how transparent the figures are in terms of balancing. Because I think the private investment is a key solution for this. Because the government has not money like invented money, printed money. It has to be so very interesting.
I'm also very, very happy with your presentation. Thanks for the quotation of Jane Jacobs. I'm really, really a fan of that. And if you wouldn't have shown all the slides, so the quote says everything. I'm really happy with this approach because it shows strong similarities to the JAC-led approach, because it is totally embedded into a thinking of urban transition management, or let's say knowledge co-production. That is what the term we use. And when it comes to investments, I think you're on the right way. I really, really hope that JAC-led can serve this vision you presented. And because it should be based on a more broader and more stable fundament, including citizens, business makers, politicians, so all the different stakeholders. One reason is exactly investment, I think. So we could discuss plenty of examples why, for example, in waste management, waste incineration plants are maybe not the very best way to treat waste. We have some good examples in our area. In the end, we today discussed already path dependencies. You can produce path dependencies with such in circular waste treatment, and in the end you are meeting the need to feed some of these infrastructures, and this is a clear barrier and obstacle on the way to a more circular urban economy. Just to mention one example, I think our task will be to streamline somehow your 60 priority measures with the living labs we would like to see in the JAC-led project, and to produce as much as we can synergies. What we can say is that we will plan, and by the end of the first period, so in next summer, we will know for how many living labs we are going to apply for funding of the BMBF, but we can estimate that it will be between 3 or 5. Yeah, and we need, of course, the discussion with you. What would be the most effective living labs? Yeah, together with your 60 priority measures. I found so many interesting things. We could have a long discussion about it. Also with our students, when you presented the public parks, I was thinking about have you thought about combining the public parks with artificial wetlands, for example, about the natural way of purification of wastewater? There are some good expertise at our university, and there are already plans where such artificial wetlands are implemented into the setting of big cities in the world. It could be very interesting for you, and of course a very interesting task for our Jakarta project. Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation.
Thank you. And I like also, we have our coastal development team, Marco. I think perhaps you can say a little bit about what you're doing, and also some of the main ideas of the master plan for the coastal area, so that they can have some ideas about the plan for the coastal area.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Gentlemen, I have not prepared slides. We have actually, we have time to install it, but in words, basically the coastal areas of Jakarta have the most, I don't like to use the word slums, but actually basically it's disadvantaged neighborhoods, as I think the word is used now in the language of UN Habitat, also in Germany. There is also lack of public transport access or accessibility into the northern area, and the coastal area also have a lot of functional conflicts. We have all kinds of requests for the expansion of functions within the coastal areas. For example, our national port is taking up, I think, already more than half of the coastal line and is asking for more. Yeah. And then our fisher folks also needs more coastal lines, and also fishing grounds, and also the fishing terminals. So what we have done in our planning, which is of course not completely done because there are still things moving on. But I think basically three issues that we want to touch. One is of course improving the livelihood of the people in the coastal areas. Second is the environmental issues, and third is really accommodating new developments. For example, as you might have heard from the Governor, that the MRT line will continue and having its terminus in the northern coastal area. So this also needs to be integrated into the whole coastal area, including also our national port and our fishing ground and fishing port for our fishing folks. We have environmental problems like the sea rise, at the same time the land subsidence, and there have been programs that are being constructed, which is the coastal defense wall. But unfortunately, what have been built in the past few years, the walls have actually made it difficult for our fisher folks to go into the sea, because they are blocking their access to the sea. So we need to do some modifications, and it is going on. We also have some opportunity to develop natural defense in the form of mangrove forests in the western part of Jakarta coast. So this combination of modified coastal defense wall and natural way of defending the coast. In the same time, there are already plans, and some are starting to move forward with regards to wastewater treatment plants in the north. And since you mentioned about the possibility of combining wastewater plant and parks, actually we are starting to do that, but not a wetland situation. I understand what you mean by wetland, which is an open wetland, but basically the wastewater plant is still closed plant, but it is going to be combined with public parks in the north, in Morangke. So that is going on with all kind of difficulties, because for some time our poorer or disadvantaged population have problems in looking at development as to their advantage, because in the past they have been mostly disadvantaged by many development projects. So we are doing that. Public transport, actually an upgrade. We already have 3,500 buses. The number that you showed, 200 something, is last year, but now we have 3,500. So actually doubled in 2 years. But again, there are very few routes that are going into the north, into the disadvantaged neighborhoods in the coastal areas, and that will be overcome very soon. I think our Transjakarta is developing new routes to serve the coastal neighborhoods, which are much more disadvantaged than the areas in the south. One is missing. I'm sorry, sir, Pak Gubernur, in your presentation, as you didn't show the Kepulauan Seribu.
Yes.
The Seribu Islands.
Khalid already presented to us.
So actually, the area of Jakarta is not what 60,000 60,000 hectares or more, but you have, I think, double it. If you include the Seribu Islands in the north, you have the bay and then 1,000 islands. There is a huge issues of services there. Public services are still lacking, but I think Mr. Governor and many of our departments have or are developing a lot of programs to decrease the gap between the islands and the mainland Jakarta. There are also plans to develop better tourism for these islands, and we are struggling with regulations. At the same time, to relax the possibilities, but also to have a more environmentally sensitive methods of development. So I think basically that's what is happening in the coastal areas, combining environmental issues, social issues with the urban poor, urban disadvantaged neighborhoods, but at the same time also economic development in the north. There are huge interests in the north. Our national port, our actually the largest fishing port in Indonesia is in Jakarta, because the major consumers of fish products are in Jakarta and the greater Jakarta region. So actually fisher folks from all over Jakarta, from all over Indonesia, come to Jakarta not to fish but also to sell. And so, yeah, thank you.
That's very interesting. So also a very important point, by putting to the coastal line the islands. And indeed, this is something very rich for Jakarta. Not many cities have this chance or this opportunity. So here, Jakarta is unique, I think, or to my knowledge, very, very unique. I only remember another point which is not directly related to the coastal, but gives a hint. When I started in Duisburg with my professorship, one of the first students with a master thesis we did is investigate the waste, because we have a lot of food waste and the city is full. And the city of Duisburg and the city of neighbor cities, Oberhausen and Wilayah, they built an incineration plant to burn this waste, because the waste was everywhere and we they couldn't get rid of that waste. And with the master thesis, we tried to investigate how the food waste of households and restaurants and hotels can be used for gas production, for biogas production. And then we proved that if we would use this waste for production of biogas, then we would save money for the citizens, for the waste payments, and we can even sell the gas or bring electricity out of that gas. And so I met some responsible from the city, and I told them, look, we have a new concept for how to treat how to use the waste. And then he said to me, are you crazy? You are stealing the resources for my incineration plant, so it's not economic for the next 20 years. And don't try to do it again. Indeed, that's one of the problems. We make decisions, and if we, when they are wrong, so they use oil to burn that. But we could on the other side generate energy. But this decision was made, and now for the next 20 years, they have to operate it in such a useless, or more or less useless sense. And nobody has done this consideration of the investment before. They just were happy to solve a problem which was there. And now we see that when we discussed about the waste and the biogas, then I said we can do it in the sewage plants, the water treatment plants, because they have some towers where they can produce gas from this, cleaning the water. And in fact, over time, in Germany, the water was becoming cleaner and cleaner. So instead of 2 towers, they only need 1. So I said, it's simple. You can make the water more dirty than you can use both again. It's a joke. But, forget it. But we could use the biogas plants now in the sewage plants, and then eventually have a second use. But there are so many people opposing, because some people living nearby say the sewage plants, the biogas might smell, and then we have a smell problem. I think when I show you this small example, you see how things are linked. On one side, long-term decisions. On the other side, population not accepting. On the other side, let's say, the cleaning of the water, which has become better over time, and now we have a useless investment standing somewhere and trying to freeze. And maybe we have a chance here to avoid some of these mistakes and to look more ahead, to do better. Because it's impressive what I see.
Now our challenge is to make sure that all this plan and new ideas that we are now shopping, we have been shopping for ideas always, is implementable. So execution is key. But if what we believe, if we learn from countries, cities that have implemented similar solutions and found unexpected side effect, we would rather to learn it now rather than to experience similar challenge. In the coastal area, for example, about two decades ago, apa namanya kalau yang di luar itu
seawall.
The giant seawall, for example. About 2 decades ago, that was being toasted in many areas as some of our solutions, and it turned out that it created more problems rather than we're grateful that we were slow in implementing, and therefore we don't have to experience that. Actually, some of the reason we experienced crisis 2 decades ago, and the financial crisis made us postpone many big projects. That was one of them, and now we learned that lessons. But on other issues, we're talking about the ITF, for example. Perhaps we really need to learn side effect of solution that was proven at one time turned out to produce result, not as expected. But anyway, the purposes I'd like to share with you some of our ideas and some of our visions, so that you can sort of make alignment as well as our team on your plan and our plan, and how we can on our side, how we can contribute to your project, but also how your project can also benefit our agenda.
And I think a very good basis is can be these 60 projects you are having in mind, or the 60 initiatives. And maybe this could be also for us a very interesting starting point to learn more about the real needs and how to handle, and how to try to handle. Yeah, if we can get access to these ideas or concepts, or
Sure.
it will be a really helpful for us.
Sure.
This can be for us a very important homework. Just to understand where you are now
On the 60 project, indeed. I know. We keep adding our strategy project. It's not reducing, but adding. So. Udah. Oh, nanti, okay. To talk about the Jakarta Resilience project, and we have the document, and I will share with you, so you'll be able to sort of look at it closer. Okay? And then pertambahan, Bapak Ibu. Cukup? Oh, please.
I would like to
Sure.
ask a question. It's actually relating to your presentation first and what you stated. And because I'm the coordinator or the main coordinator of the project, the planner, so I make sure that we have certain blocking slots that would benefit the project. So I would start with the idea. I like really the idea of that if everybody wants to benefit, then the plan should come from everybody. The idea of public participation, and we have co-creation, exactly, or co-design, co-creation and co-design, or what we call it, knowledge co-production. We are doing a small-scale process within Jakarta in the second block. So I already explained that we have 3 blocks in the definition phase of Jakarta for 18 months. The first is more orientation, to know what are the problems and visualize it, and put it all together in one frame. The second block is envisioning, this is where we are getting these perspectives, and to know what are the people are aiming for, and construct together like an agenda. We call it transition agenda. I will explain more, of course, when you come to us, and with more visualization, and there will be more details. But I would really like to know, so far, how have you been able to engage the public or civil society in your plans, and how they were reacting to it, and what was maybe the best experience maybe that you had. Of course, maybe this is a big question, we cannot answer it now, but it would really benefit us to know how we design the envisioning block that we have, because we have in April 2020, we have another workshop in Jakarta. This is where we would make this process, that we collect views from stakeholders, from civil society, from NGOs, from also people from the public, and to be able to together find out a common agenda. So yeah, this is one interesting point. Maybe we could have a chance to know about your experience about public engagement. The second thing is about nature-based solutions that you talked about. You said that you already have a presentation about that, and actually this has a really big really good place in our project, nature-based solutions. And when it comes to mangroves, we have next Wednesday Mr. Ahmed Munawar from the Ministry of Environmental Protection, the conservation unit. He is coming to explain to us about mangroves and the protection of mangroves and their role in the coastal areas of Jakarta. So it would be a good chance if we could also have you to give us this presentation. Then we could make some kind of combination and have a first orientation of how we could really integrate the ideas into a good or nature-based solution that would turn into a living lab in further steps. So, yeah.
Yeah, we can arrange time.
Yes, absolutely. That would be really.
Actually, Mr. Khalid is an advisor to the Minister of Environment.
Ah, okay. So, yeah, okay. Yes.
Is the advisor to the Minister of Environment and also board of Dewan Sampah.
National Committee on Waste Management.
Okay.
So National Committee is the board of the National Ketua, Chairman of
Policy Analysis.
Apa yang itu?
Chairman Policy Analysis,
National Waste Management.
Waste Management.
National Waste. So everything with waste you must. Waste man.
Bapak sampah.
There's one part that for some reason I skipped earlier was this, the community action plan. This is taking place in the northern side of Jakarta. Revitalizations of disadvantaged area through active participations of its residents in designing neighborhood. So this is what we call the co-creator that you talk about. And this is also include the budgetary process, for example. They're also involving the community. This is one example when we are talking about this is one neighborhood that was demolished. It was apa ya, penggusuran paksa tuh Pak?
Forced eviction.
Forced eviction. It was forced eviction in 2016, and then we promised to this community that we will be rebuilding the community, and this was the design, but the process is together with them until we come up with this design. So it was a participatory process instead of an external consultant with a lot of templates to be adopted. A big budget, of course.
It is very interesting. Part of our consortium is a group from the University of Bremen. They had already a project in the country of Indonesia. It's the group of Professor Michael Fliedner, and they worked in a project called New Regional Formats, and they made action-oriented research in Indonesia and Ghana with a special concern on so-called local ecological knowledge and how local ecological knowledge by communities can be actively used to become co-creators and to participate in such a process. So if that fits into your strategies, we would be happy to bring it together. Absolutely. Yeah.
That would be great. That would be great. And on the procurement methods, now we have a new approach, not us that created this approach. The national government has outlined a new approach that allow us to simply, it's like transferring grant and then let the community manage the budget instead of us doing it. And that was new only last year was allowed. And Jakarta is the first province adopting that system, because our approach is already, we're moving into the 4.0 in which we have co-created. The challenge is, where do we get the money so they can get it going? So, and then at the same time, although it wasn't coordinated, the national government is providing the avenue to do that. So, level of engagement from the public into our process is even deeper when they are able to control the budget. Because then it is not only consultations, but it is also engagement at the execution level. In the past, whenever you have engagement, that the engagement at the planning stage. At the execution stage, we monopolize the executions. Now the execution is able to be done by the public. The challenge is more on our side. We're used to do everything on our own. Now we have to distribute some part of our, not only our authority, but some part of our work to the community. And the challenge on ours is more on the reports, the audits, making sure it's done properly.
Yeah.
That's quality control.
And it's confidence which has to be established over time.
Yeah. Okay. Lydia, I think we have provided hopefully all that's needed.
Yeah.
And
you have given us a type of hint that everything is already done.
yeah.
First impression. Where we have to go a little bit deeper, but we are really impressed.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing that we discussed this morning also is setting up the project management.
Project partners. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Please enjoy your stay, and I hope the Jakarta treats you well, and bless the place that you stay in the northern side of Jakarta is providing you with a good experience. Rizal, you know some places in Jakarta, please do enjoy. Thank you. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
What time is the session?
9 o'clock.
It's based on your flexibility, so
Yeah.
We arrange. We have a coordination meeting tomorrow at 9, in which all head of department and head of sub-departments are being gathered, and we'll have a briefing on our budget. We'll arrange time. Okay.